Welcome back from yesterday afternoon. I think we all found the three speakers yesterday very, very interesting and stimulating, and I'm sure we'll find that today and this morning and with our first speaker and the panelists. This opening speaker this morning is Neni Panurgia, right? Did I get it close? Close enough? Neni is Associate Professor of Anthropology and affiliated faculty member at the Institute for Comparative Literature and Culture and at the Harriman Institute. She's also on the advisory board of the New York Academy of Sciences. She's going to be speaking this morning about new forms of scholarly communication and a very interesting project that she has been working on for quite a while. So, Neni?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the invitation. Thank you very much for being interested in digital research, in digital humanities, in digital social sciences, which are not always the same, unfortunately. And before I do anything else, what I would like to do is, don't look at the book thing. I want to show you a short video that the Center for Digital Research and Scholarship at Columbia University put together on the making of this book. And then I will come back and I will talk to you more about this, this collaboration. So. The online version of the, actually it's the online edition of Dangerous Citizens, is not exactly book online. So it's not that someone can just open the book and read the pages and just have this experience, but it is an interactive experience. You can jump from chapter to chapter. You can go to the bibliography. You can go to maps. It can you can listen to music. You can listen to poets reading their poems. So it's a more what I call a synesthetic experience. You don't get the feeling of the paper, right? But you get a different depth of the experience. When we first talked with Fordham University Press, when we first talked about the printed edition, I had asked Fordham if they would be willing to include a CD or a DVD with the book, so that actually I would be able to incorporate there all the things that are now online, and of course they couldn't. So it was something that was already thought about before it became a possibility. But it is really very important, I think, that presses, any press, but university press in particular, work so closely with a library project. And the reason for that being that this way the library knows really how to make better use of a print book, and then the press knows really what the particularities, the particular contingencies are facing a library project. So it was really very fortunate. I was very fortunate that CDRS and Columbia Libraries were willing to engage in this really new mode of presenting a book, and they were willing to work with press so closely. Online space is appropriate for this material because the primary material that I have used spans a lot of different media. All that, of course, has been transferred onto the printed book. But the entire experience of that could not be really transmitted on the printed page. So what CDRS managed to do, which was originally my hope, that even for the print edition, was that they took this shadow text and they foreshadowed it. So you're reading the main text, and then you can just click and see notes coming up, and you can decide as a reader whether to read the notes then or leave them for later, whether to aggregate them or open them in successive windows. And then the greatest wonder of all was the fact that at any given moment, a reader can go and look at the photographs and the videos and then come back into the text itself. So it was bringing all these different media together that was magnificent in the way that CDRS arranged it. For me, the greatest wonder of all was how the people at CDRS took PDF and produced what I really had in mind about this book to look like. This might be the optimal, the ideal future of the book, right? A print book alongside its electronic edition. What this website will do, I hope, is that it will retain its originality and its original location, but will keep on expanding. So in 10 years from now, we will be able to see both where we were now, where we are now, and where we will be in 10 years, and the entire distance in between. Okay. So let me give you the background of this. There. All right. So I was writing this book on, which is a longitudinal, it's anthropological book, right? So it's an ethnography of a history. So it is the history. It started actually as a rubber band. In the middle of the book was the German occupation and the Civil War and the concentration camps that the liberal governments in Greece under the Marshall Plan had put together. So from there, and tortures that happened on those exile islands. So from there, it just opened up on either side, really. And it went all the way back to 1871 and all the way forward to 2008. So as I was writing, I was realizing that this could become totally, completely unmanageable unless I found a way in which I could contain both content and my desire for it. But I still hadn't found a way in which that could actually be represented, what I had in mind as presentation, how it could be really represented in the actual text. So in my very first book, what I had done in order to incorporate the multiple layers of meaning that needed to go into the text was that in the I had opted for what, starting with Kant and then with Schopenhauer and more recently with Derrida, is called parerga. So the parerga are the notes. They are notes, but they are more than notes, right? So they are not just explicatory text, but they are text that has a weight of its own. So in that first formulation, the very first book, what I had done was that I kept the parerga alongside the text. And in the middle of that book, the text split in half. So on the top, I had the narrative, which is, what we do in anthropology. We had the ethnography, and then on the bottom, I had a lot of notes that were running alongside that text. But with this book, I thought that I actually wanted I wanted the reader to be able to follow not just the text, but also to see the ways in which
history percolates in the narratives, and I wanted the reader to be able to tell what came to my mind when I was writing or reading a particular narrative that had been given to me. So I wanted to be able to transfer the ethnographic experience, not just in terms of fieldwork, but also in terms of writing up about it, as much as possible, to transfer that to the reader. So initially, the way that I had imagined it was that the main text would be on the left side of the book, and then it would have big bubbles that would go on the right page of the book. That would be the paragraph. And Helen Tartar at Fordham said, there's no way we can do this. The main text will never go on the left page. And then I was faced with the specificity of a geography of the book. I mean, to me, there was no difference between the right page and the left page, right? She said, we can't do that. So then I said, of course, I don't have a copy of the book here to show you what it looked like, but we had the text. We had the text like this, and then I had numbers in the text, and then small bubbles on the page itself, right? And the really long ones, the really long paragraph, went on the back. So what these geniuses at CDRS were able to do was, as you heard, was take those and make them. Initially, they had said that they could make a hypertext where you would actually be able to just hover over the note and read it. Then they realized that that is impossible, and so here is, this normally would have in the print book, this has a number. This is the first paragraph of the book. And here is this one. So you read, I don't know why here it appears on the bottom. It should actually appear on the right. It's a screen size. Okay. Because when you go on your computer, actually you see it, right? So let me just read this to you. It was late one evening on a winter preceding the junta. The day the junta came to power was April the 21st, 1967, when I was about to turn 9 years old. The incident happened 2 or 3 winters before, 1964, 1965. There was a knock on the door, and when my mother answered, a middle-aged man, or so he seemed to me, was standing there dressed in not tattered, but certainly old-fashioned clothes, a dark suit, and white shirt, no tie, with a light sweater underneath his suit jacket, no overcoat, but a scarf around his neck, and a leathery, deeply furrowed face, whose seriousness fell on me like a weight. So click on this, and there is. When I interviewed the Greek historian Anonis Liakos in March 2006, he also commented that when he was a child, he and his friends would flock around the parents of friends, primarily fathers, returning from extended periods of exile or prison, not so much because of the excitement of their return, as for the oddity of their appearance. They would wear these suits with oversized lapels and high-cut vests, which we had never seen before, because they were in vogue before we were born, right? So as I was telling the story, I was discussing the story with this particular historian, he interrupted me. He said, yes, I remember. So this is what I wanted to be able to be visible in the book, and they were able to do it. So so I was then I gave the text to a friend and colleague at Columbia to read. So this is a second. This is a photograph actually. So let me read a little more. Do I have more? I have more time? Okay. So this itinerary bookseller, right? He was holding 2 large, very heavy canvas bags, one in each hand, half holding them, half resting them on our doorstep. He looked at my mother and said, "I'm selling books, madam." He looked at me and said again, "Buy one, please, for your daughter." My mother asked him to come inside, where from her salary as a high school teacher, she bought 4 books, 2 bound in green fabric, 2 bound in black fabric, all with golden letters on the spine and the front. Vivos Grigoriadis' To Antarctico, a 4-volume history of the Greek organized armed resistance to the German occupation during the Second World War. The books were curiously numbered. The first volume had no number on the spine. The second, third, and fourth had their numbers. But at some point, many years later, when I actually read the books, I realized that the first, numberless volume was really the fourth. That we had had no volume 1, but 2 copies of volume 4, one numbered, one not, all the result of a low-budget, clandestine production of the books, no doubt. This was by no means the first time that I had encountered a clandestine procurement of books. I was even younger, from when I was 4 until I was 6 or 7 years old, so around 1962, 1965, when my mother would take me with her to downtown Athens to a basement apartment that served as a contraband bookshop beneath the Opera House. She would carefully balance her high heels on the winding metal staircase descending to the shop, where we would buy copies of Nikos Kazantzakis' censored books. So as the friend was reading this, she's from India, she said, "We need to know what this looked like. Who's this chick with high heels who is going down a winding staircase to buy contraband books?" So this is a chick with the high heels, right? These are the high heels. So you can enlarge this. So this was one of my concerns, right? How to make the printed book more reader-friendly, right? Rather when I need to check out something on the book, when I need to look something up in my book, I don't go to the book, I go to the website because it's searchable, right? So, or I Google, and it comes up. If I put a word, let's see here. Is there? Can we have a? Tell me.
You just want a second window to open up for you?
Yeah. Thank you. Excellent. Okay, so thank you. So if I put here, let's say, Hitler. No, I shouldn't put Hitler. I should put, because we'll get 35 million hits. But let's say I want to search Yaros, right, which is one of the exile islands. It will give me Yaros Communications. But if I write here Yaros dangerous citizens, it will get me here. So it will let me go anywhere I want to go. It will let me go to the maps or the illustrations where I have a lot of pictures from. Here is the right, photographs. Or it actually brings me to the text itself. The other thing that I wanted to do was that I wanted to be able to give a sense of the sense, right? So, when Merleau-Ponty talks about the mise en scène, this is what we anthropologists do, right? We set the scene down. We say this is what it looks like. But when he says actually that the mise en scène should always conjure the mise en scène also, to give you a sense of what this thing is like, what that synesthetic experience is like. Greek history and the experience of Greek history is always in a dialectical relationship to the production of art, either what we call high art or what we call popular art, low art. So this is one of the interesting and important things in here. This is the opening. This is the motto of the book. It doesn't have, obviously, it doesn't have this. It has, actually, let me go to the first page. Okay, so the first page here, right, has, you get this look where you can start reading. There is, there's a navigation guideline map as to what to do with photographs and texts and videos. And then at the bottom, this is my photograph here, and the only reason why I've put it here is because on this photograph I look very much like my son. Not because I'm trying to pass as if I look anything like this anymore. But so this is an explanation of what I was trying to do with this project. It's a new preface to the electronic edition of the book. But if you look at the first page, I don't know if it's going to show us actually the first printed page. The book is dedicated to my son and his friends. Anyhow, the point is that before the dedication, there is the motto, and the motto on the print book is this, right? It is a part of a poem that by Lefteris Papadopoulos that Mikis Theodorakis put to music in 1962. Fair enough, right? So far, so okay. But this was, I mean, it existed as a song since 1962. Then 1982, there was a film that was made that, sorry,
Anastasia,
that used the song as part of it. Now, the song was played in the film by Pavlos Sidiropoulos, this person right here, who came from the anti-junta left, but later he had a rather unusual development in the sense that rather than growing older with the left, he actually became addicted to drugs. So, and he died of an overdose in 1992. This is not the typical development of a person in the left in Greece. He played in this 1982. He died in 1992. During the uprising of the students in 2008, high school students, in 2008 in Athens, the students who had had no connection to the left, no connection to Theodorakis at all, and not necessarily any connection with sustained drug use, picked up this song.
Anastasia.
So,
κάποτε θα έρθουν να σου πούν πως σε πιστεύουν, σ' αγαπούν και πως σε θένε. Έχε το νου στο παιδί.
It's all about saving the children. So when I was writing, I knew that my research had to be further expanded to include experiences of exile and concentration camps post-World War II elsewhere in Europe. And the only other ones that existed were in Yugoslavia, were Tito's camps on the islands of Goli Otok and Sveti Gorgor, which he opened in 1948 for the Stalinists. They remained open between 48 and 58 for the Stalinists. In 1958, from 58 to 68, for the Royalists. From 68 to 78 for the anti-communists, and from 78 to 88 for criminal infractions, right? So there are this longitudinal use of those camps that needed to be part of this. I didn't have time as I was writing, because the writing Dangerous Citizens took actually from, I started fieldwork sometime in the late 90s. I did 15 months between 2003 and 2004. I was writing until 2008. It had already taken too long. I didn't have time to wait. The book needed to be out. But what this allowed me to do was that it allowed me to do the research on Goli Otok and Sveti Gorgor and add it to this material. The chronology eventually will be a sliding, right? But they haven't found out a way of doing it yet. So this is also a work in progress for CDRS, right? I realized that when the center was saying, oh, we can do all this, they meant we will be able to do all this at some point in the future when technology is actually catches up with our desire. But they cannot actually do this yet, right? So, but this will be a sliding chronology. So you can see it as a single page. It starts in 1871. And was there something in particular that you wanted to see in the chronology? Did you want to see something in particular in the chronology?
No, I just wanted to see whether it was basically text-based or something else.
It's supposed to be a ruler on the top of the, with a sliding bar. Here are the maps. The maps are
our boat ride. We leave behind Senj, the medieval coastal town on the north coast of Croatia, from which we will drive south to the ferry that will take us to Goli Otok. 5 of us are taking the trip, among us the Croatian anthropologist Dejan Lukic. Senj is a cosmopolitan town that has retained all the vestiges of its long history.
so
Thick town walls, tall.
Okay. So this is broken up into 4 segments. The visit to Yugoslavia. This is, okay, so let's look at the, this is Privich, this is, as I said, this is a Goli Otok, right? This is Sveti Gorgor right here. That rock in the middle of the sea is the island of Privich.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
At what point is there a decision made to move information that might be a footnote to this privileged position of occupying? You have this idea of the paragon. So at what point does your information become critical enough to become more than a footnote? It becomes privileged as part of this expanded sense of word on it.
So at which point it is not part of the main text, you're saying?
It's a footnote. I mean, when does it become?
It's not a footnote. It,
Okay, I understand that. But my question is, at what point do you make a decision that this is worthwhile, putting it in this kind of center position?
Footnotes are only bibliographical references. Those are the only footnotes in the book. What becomes a paragon are two things. One, text that actually is pregnant with something in the future, right? So something that I will do in the future, which I don't really want to take up at that moment more extensively, becomes a paragon. Long explanatory text. So if I can show you, let's see here. So in the Metaxas dictatorship, right? No, I don't want. Epitafios is, right, the explanation of it. What epitafios means, what its dimensions, the dimensions of the meaning are, right? So let's go back. Then Yannis Ritsos, the Greek poet, wrote epitafios in 10 days, right? What does epitafios mean for Ritsos? It means this, right? But this is not only the explanation about the epitafios, there is also in the back of the site, there is also material that has come from, I have primarily taken it from YouTube and the Greek television archives of Mikis Theodorakis talking about epitafios, and I also have a few samples, right, of the of the performances, of different performances. So that goes there also.
I get that, and I think allied to that, if I can continue to ask another part of that question, is how that's tied to this decision that it should be digital, information, it should be put in a new kind of context or a new kind of mode. Because the kind of thing that you're doing is actually, I mean, I don't want to underplay what you're doing, but I think that there's more technology available to make the dynamic much more elusive, much more compelling. So the company that you're working with, in my view, seems to be reinventing the wheel to some extent. And so maybe there's some people here that can help me with that. But what I'm seeing is that, and I understand what you're doing and the theory behind it, but to my mind, if we're here, we're talking about digital technology and possibilities of that, there's far more that's available that can really enrich what you're doing. So,
This is not a company. This is Columbia University. So I did not go out looking for a company that would actually make this available to me, right, or possible to me. So as I said earlier, I know nothing about computers. I have no idea how computers work. I mean, you can tell. To me, and as you say, this might be, again, reinventing the wheel. To me, what is of extreme importance are the following two facts. The one is that this is open access, right? Nobody needs to pay for it. It's downloadable. page a day, and it is printable at that rate. Secondly, it is that precisely because it's open access, it gets accessed by people who, so, it has, right? Yeah, so if other,
That's why we're here, in order to have these dialogues, so that we can inform each other.
right,
But, I'm thinking, just a demonstration of this is not as compelling as the overall presentation because it lacks the technological basis and moving it forward. And I think that you think of vectors, for instance, you see what's going on in UC California, you would see Southern California. For instance. I mean, they're working with scholars who may not have the technological savvy and how to do that, to do exactly what you're doing. I mean, the knowledge of these kinds of activities that are going out there is greatly enhanced. What is your trying to do?
Well, I will say this. I'm technologically retarded or back. This is pretty technical for me, and I think more of the average layman. Hey, this is great for me. Like what you're talking about, I think is great for the technology people and everything else, but the average layman, this really hits them. Now, I'm a layman. I'm not computer savvy. I'm the chimp with the hammer when it comes to things, hit and miss. But to me, it works simply because to me it seems like it's very user-friendly and available without going into technical gobbledygook, which will make me just go white noise. It's like blah, 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 dangerous citizen, blah, 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 dangerous citizen, So there's a point to what you're saying, but for the layman, the average person who's not really technologically savvy, and I will say it, I'm not technologically savvy, this is good stuff. I'm trying to say, read your book while you're talking.
what they did was that they did usability, they ran usability tests with students at Columbia. So they got graduate students and undergraduates, and this is what they came up with because these were the guidelines that they got from the students. I would like to know what else is possible to be done with this, but I haven't seen it, so I don't. I mean, the electronic books that I have seen don't have any of this. Right? I mean, but I might not be looking at the correct place. So I would love to talk to you afterwards.
I think we're really getting at the heart of why we're here, and that is, what will be useful, what will be useful in terms of learning. And I think that you go on some kind of apparatus that is really just going to send you off the deep end, but you want something that can easily access.
Yeah.
I agree with that. And if you're not savvy as a scholar, that was my question.
No, I understand your question.
But it's working with somebody to come up with the solution to what you're doing, because it's really exciting research.
But that's not, it's not.
That, but it's that accessibility.
No, I understand completely. I understand completely what you're saying. Go ahead.
In terms of your approach to scholarly communication, I'm curious how this platform, Good For You, relates to the printed books. In this case, you have both of them. And I know you alluded to that, but I'd be interested in hearing a little more about what your intentions are with each form of your scholarship communication.
If I understand you correctly, this is a way in which, of course, you can say that this exists already, but I didn't know. People who actually adopt the book as textbook, they also have access to this. We actually do a scholars wiki, and we can co-teach the class, right? When they're teaching the book. So they have the print book. We have this. They have this on their screen. I am on the other screen from Columbia, and we have an interaction as if I was there. Now, again, to me as a teacher, that is extremely important to be able to do that. It is also extremely important to do it as an author. I don't know what other possibilities are there, but if that is what you're asking, yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Sure. Yeah.
It seems to me that the value here is the organization of the content and the use of the technology to give availability without going to all different types of sources. You can do the same thing in a library, having books on reserve that are supplementary to your book, but you've got it all here. And so that uses the robust capability of the internet to provide, but the content is really the key. Your selection of particular cross-references to your book.
Because there are, I don't know why we can't actually open those. I can't show you the maps and things, but one of the things that they do is that they have done here is that they have, when there are references in the book, they have linked them to, and those references exist in the web. They have linked them, and you can go straight to those from this text. I selected everything. Yeah, I mean, there is. It's one of the ways in which actually one can see the work that has gone into this book. Yeah, go ahead.
To some degree, you've already answered my question for this question, but so it strikes me that every sentence that you see here, I can put, you could have put 10 links to half a dozen different things, including articles and so on. But as I think you just answered, so you've made some kind of decisions and triage about what to include and not. But there could be an infinite number of links. And so, I mean, that could be a good thing too. So I'm curious in the construction of such a thing. I'm curious, so I applaud you for it. But what I'm curious about is that if you had an infinite number of links, or far more than you have now, then it also seems an opportunity for a teacher who's going to be able to teach your text, or will teach it not quite in the linearity that you suggested, because they can pick and choose whatever they want. I mean, it's a really interesting sort of space to make an interesting kind of introductory textbook in a way that suddenly becomes an open syllabus for any teacher who wants to teach it. So along those lines, where do you decide to kind of circumscribe or reduce the infinity to a finite number? I mean, you see what I'm trying to...
I think I do. When we first started talking about this, that was one of my original concerns. I said, well, what happens? And I wanted to limit the way in which one can actually access the videos and the photographs, right, or the maps. Because I didn't want this to become, right, a picture book. Or Google, right. I didn't want that. So then the people at CDRA said, we'll just link the videos and the photographs to the text, right? So you have to go to the text in particular in order to be able to access that. But then I said, well, what if someone actually lands on a page that, is in the middle of the book? And then my editor at Fordham said, people do that with print books all the time, right? You open a book and you read anywhere you want. There's nothing that actually limits you to where you're going to, where your gaze is going to land. So that's, I have made the decisions that I have made to limit access to content has been primarily political in the following sense. There is a lot of very sensitive material here. And although I have I debated with myself a lot about this. There is a link to a site on Ioannis Metaxas, who was the dictator of Greece from 1936 to 1941. That site is maintained by his supporters. And I thought that it was important to put in there because people wouldn't know. I mean, you read about Metaxas, you wouldn't know, unless you were Greek, you wouldn't know who Metaxas was. That's why I put it in. I don't have any links to Goering. I don't have any links to Eichmann. I have no links to anything that has to do with the Nazi party. I have very few links to the dictatorship of 67 to 74, and those come from the news. So those were the kinds of decisions that I made, right, in reference to the text. But in terms of published material, meaning peer-reviewed academic scholarly material, everything that exists out there is also traceable from this. Yeah.
If I could just follow up, what strikes me as interesting is that you've got the narrative of, you've got your narrative of the text, and depending on how many links or which links you put in, will could change the narrative. It would be interesting if at the start of the text you have, you might have like choose your own adventure for the story, but then you have a choice between like say 6 narratives, and then depending on which narrative you choose, you determine which links are available, right? And so you provide interesting opportunities for the same text depending on which links are available to the whichever faculty wants to teach it, which narrative they want to take. So it's like 6 different ways to read your book, dependent on which links are available. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's this is actually in the beginning, in the preface. No, it's not. Sorry, it's not the preface. It's from now on, right? So here, you see? So it doesn't, this goes also back to the question of parerga. They don't have the same weight as the main text does. How the reader wants to read it, they can read the paragraph first, they can read the main text, they can move back and forth. It gives the reader a greater flexibility, right, to do what you're saying. With the links, of course, anyone can just go just to the links, right? And kids, my son's friends who are really savvy about this, they follow, they find the links and they just open them up. They don't read any of the text. They don't read any of the text. They just go there because they're also conditioned. I mean, to think that way. Can I come back to you because there is no. Okay.
I just had an interesting comment for me. I am coming to this colloquium as a medieval and Renaissance curator, books and manuscripts. So I deal almost exclusively with book history in the pre-modern period. And one thing that I really find compelling about this project is that I'm going to reuse the reinventing the wheel thing that you had said, but not in a pejorative sense at all. And that this project seems to be recapturing pre-modern methods of reading because the Peregrine, all of that is the same as marginal commentary. And in the 18th century, you have a transition of lateral marginal commentary going down to a footnote. Footnotes being pared down. This is just a return to high 16th century academic texts and book printing, which actually was a lot more flexible than modern book printing in a lot of ways, even though it was a completely manual process. And when you're talking about the choose your own adventure type thing in the Middle Ages, virtually every academic text was subject to what's called the 4 senses of Scripture. And you approach this and you read it allegorically, tropologically, anagogically, literally, any which way you want. And there are different apparatus for each type of reading that you want. You have your core text, and then depending on which way you want to go, you read the different commentary. Those different commentaries then are laying in all of these different authorities that you can kick out to and say, go to Aristotle, go to Ignatius, go to Isidore, go to whomever you please. And what is easier in the Middle Ages is the corpus of available works is, of course, much, much smaller. So you don't need something like Google or the World Wide Web to capture billions of pieces of information. There's a reason that people like Alan of Lille were called the universal doctor. He theoretically did read everything that was available at that point. You can't do that anymore, but I just find this very compelling because we're sitting here in a very modern or postmodern 21st century, and all we're doing with a lot of the digital technology when it comes to creating an e-book or an online book is repackaging medieval manuscript techniques, repackaging 16th century printing techniques, and souping it up by turning it into bits and bytes as opposed to printed impressions on page or strokes of a quill. And I find it very, very fascinating.
You know, one of my, and you will know what I'm talking about, one of my languages is Byzantine paleography. So having spent 2 years in Byzantine paleography, that was actually one of the modalities that were in the back of my head, even when I was writing my very first book. You know, the idea of the palimpsest, something that gets written over and over and over again, and if you're careful enough, you can actually see the previous writings, right? So that was part of the, yeah, of course, there was part of the aesthetic also. Yeah, there was another, no? Go ahead.
You mentioned the wiki that you have, where you were able to interact with users in text. Do you have avenues then for users to be able to send you information? And then the follow-up question to that is, how often are you adjusting and updating the text? Are you doing things weekly, monthly, quarterly? Do you have some sort of a publishing schedule in that sense?
The answer to the first question is no. And that is because it would require that I would monitor anything that would be added to it by anyone other than myself. And I don't have time to do that. Maybe when I'm older. But the answer to the second question is really painful because it takes CDRS a very long time to make any addition. A very long time. So initially, you know, they put up the text and it had, you know, typos and things of that sort. And I said, you know, there's a typo there. And they would say, oh, so we'll send you a link where you can actually tell us where the mistakes are, and then we'll fix them. So they sent me a spreadsheet onto which I had to go to the text and cut and paste and put it on the spreadsheet and then give them the priority guide as to what they should fix first, and then 3 months later they had fixed a comma. So literally, and I'm not exaggerating. So I said, why can I just come to the office and I will sit there and I will fix the typos? And they said, we can't do this because, you know, you would have to have someone with you all the time. So I said, why don't you just give me the text and I will make the. So they said, it will take me 3 hours to do this. They said, no, it's not going to take you 3 hours. So they sent me the HTML. And you know what that looks like. There is no way in which I can make head or tails of that thing. So we're still back at the. This is part of the. That's why this is painful, because I know the errors it has. On location, all the Yugoslavian material took about 9 months to be added. Yeah, go ahead.
You mentioned using the wiki to interact with users of your text as they are teaching the class, so that in a sense you are coaching to the class. But if a lot of users use this, then that becomes a wiki. How would you manage that if a bunch of people decide to do that? I mean, how would you actually manage that in real time?
We're not there yet. I don't know. I have no idea. I haven't thought about it. I haven't thought about it yet. Yeah. But I mean, for the time being, I have done this about 4 or 5 times. And it has worked out fine. I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, who was going to keep your book up to date? You said you didn't have time to continuously check the links that, that you have. But, what about the problem with link rot? What if maybe a year or 2 later someone is reading your book, they click on the site and they're no longer there or the information is out of date? Who's helping you to keep this?
Everything, all the links have been. Tell me if I'm saying something which is, you guys who understand, have been cached. Is that, yeah. So at any given moment, those links will be available precisely because they have been part of the. That's how they have done it.
And I also want to thank you for doing this because you are presenting a new, different way to read and use a book online. Just as what this gentleman here said, I'm in European history, and the notes that are usually placed in a physical regular book, you find the notes, author's notes on different chapters at the end of the book. They're very lengthy, sometimes are lengthy, very explanatory, and many times you learn just as much, if not more, information in those notes as in a regular book. Here you have right there next to the screen, and this is great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do you have a question?
I'm a physician and a cognitive scientist interested in anthropological contributions to narrative health. In the beginning part of your talk, you mentioned the word humanities and social sciences and then made a little comment about, well, they're different. But I guess my question to you is, what does this kind of approach say about that boundary between the humanities and the social sciences? Because it seems to me that what you're doing informs that boundary.
The side comment and the snide comment that I made was that social sciences and humanities are not always compatible or the same. That's what it said. Because lots of social sciences, there has been a dire critique of humanism, and my generation is absolutely part of that. So along with humanism went the notion of the human and I think that the recent development of or rise in the interest in the notion of the human, what is not human, is not necessarily part of humanism, right? It's not necessarily driven by what Edward Said used to call humanism, right? An interest in the human being as a human being, and not as the dominant paradigm of signification. I am, without a question and unabashedly, a humanist. I am interested in what human beings do. I am interested in how human beings translate themselves to the world, how they make sense of the world. I am interested in human experience and human expression. It's interesting that you said that you're interested in narrative, in medical narratives, because the new project that I'm involved in has to do with narratives that come from the ICU. So I'm talking with, I'm doing rounds. So I'm working with physicians, intensivists. I'm working with communicative patients. I'm working with their families, nurses. Precisely on these narratives, just to see what actually it means to be a human being in the context of the intensive care unit. I don't know if I answered your question or your comment. All right. Okay. We have to stop. Yes. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. Thank you really very much.